Hey, Daily Dosers, this is Pastor Larry again back with you. And as you know, we're taking a week to kind of look at this idea of the church, religion, and politics. And I want to go to one of the go-to stories for me whenever I think about these kind of things, and especially the possibility or at times a reality that I am under authority and leadership politically within this nation, this state, this city, that is not the leadership I want to be under, or is not a particularly godly leader. How do I respond? And I always go to Daniel. You know, we often turn the book of Daniel into a Sunday school story, like it's kids' curriculum, full of adventure, with a guy thrown into a lion's den and not being eaten, or three guys thrown into a fiery furnace and they come out alive. But I want to remind you, there were no Sunday school classes when Daniel put his autobiography together and got this printed, put in the Bible. What Daniel is it's a primer for those of us that find ourselves living in a godless situation. And at times with leaders that we just shake our head and go, what's up with that? No matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, my bet is if the other side wins, that's how you're going to think. Well, Daniel tells his story of being in Babylon, and he doesn't just survive, he thrives. And part of it is because he understands in the end we win. So he remains a man of hope no matter how bad things are, as he and his people and his nation have been brought captive to this godless, demon-worshiping place called Babylon. And he himself, because he's kind of cream of the crop, has been castrated and now thrown into the service, the administration of if you will, of this godly guy, king named Nebuchadnezzar. And in the midst of that, because he has hope, he's able to be respectful. And because he has hope and he knows how it's going to end, he's able to have the wisdom to pick his battles so carefully that he's only fighting over those things that are not preferences, not honoring or dishonoring to God, but absolute laws of God. And there he draws a line and accepts whatever the consequences might be. But because he was so respectful, as the Bible teaches us to be for our leaders, the New Testament talks about praying for our leaders, showing honor to our leaders, and many of those leaders at the time when those things were written were completely godless, one of them being Nero, who was persecuting Christians, often at times taking their corpse and lighting them to light the fires of his wild orgy parties. And yet it was like, you know what? Right now, our job is to honor that we might have influence. Now, again, sidetrack here so some of you don't get all jacked up and, man, we live in a different world where we can vote. We can do all kinds of different things to shape it. And don't complain if you don't use those opportunities. But still, at the end of the day, sometimes we're not on the side we wanted to be on. And what do we do then? Well, Daniel showed respect, prayed for, served so well this Nebuchadnezzar. He kept getting promoted to higher and higher positions that eventually he found himself in a top-level position where Nebuchadnezzar had this wild, crazy dream, couldn't find anybody else able to interpret it, turns to Daniel, and Daniel is able to say, you know what? None of this enchantment, this black magic, this demon-worshiping stuff the magicians are doing, none of it has any power. Let me tell you about the God Most High. And believe it or not, as you read through the book of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar turns and he praises God as the God Most High. Could have never happened had Daniel isolated himself, not served well, and the things that got him to that point of credibility and that higher role within the kingdom. Well, at one point, there's this crazy dream where God basically is warning Nebuchadnezzar of his arrogance. And he says, there's going to come a time where you're going to be mentally ill, broken. You're going to live like an animal for at least a year. And he has this dream, and Daniel's the guy who interprets it for him. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm Daniel, here's what I say. Oh, Neb, baby, I've been praying for this opportunity for a long time. You be going down. But no, here, this is what he says. In Daniel chapter 4, my Lord, if only the dream applied to your enemies and its meaning to your adversaries. And here we go. And he explains the dream. Catch that. The respect for God's enemies, because his hope is that God's enemies will become God's sons and daughters. Let's never forget that in the midst of this. Like Daniel, we know we win. Like Daniel, we need to follow the Lord and show respect to whoever he puts over us. And like Daniel, we need to serve well. Like Daniel, we need to pick our battles well. And like Daniel, and like Jesus, we need to love our enemies in the hope that we can win them over, not in the wrath of wiping them out. That's the spirit of Jesus. Let's be different people, different men and women, North Coast, as we go through this difficult time.